View from the Gutters, episode 120. Welcome to View from the Gutters, the comic book podcast where each episode we discuss a collected edition, trade paperback, or graphic novel, and then recommend and vote on the book for the next episode. Warning: the discussion portion of this show has massive spoilers for that book. On this episode, we discuss Pretty Deadly, and to skip ahead to the recommendation section, skip to 10608.
Episode number...
Why we never get
over.
going. 120. I'm Andrew Chard.
Is it 120? I'm Joe Preti.
I'm Tobiah Panshin.
Yes.
Brant... Sorry, go.
Sorry, I'm Kayleigh Fleeman.
Brant Gillihan-Eddy. Sorry, I'm used to Cade going last and I had to jump in before. And I mean, he's not here, but...
That was last week's, was 119. I have it written down
come
on
on,
a
Joe.
handy Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles whiteboard.
This is a big deal. This is the first time the episode number has been divisible by 4 since 116.
It's true.
It's been like a month.
It's been a long time. It's been a while.
My
So
God.
3
That's not mine. I stole it.
quick announcements. Announcement number 1, as always, thank you to our episode sponsors, Brandon Hill,
Yay.
Tony Cortero, and Brian May.
Yay. We love you all.
We have a new sponsor this week. Hi, Brandon.
Yes.
Nice to have you with us.
Nice to have hashtag #1 Chard fan back.
Announcement number 2. Once again, we are going to be doing a panel at the Olympia Comics Festival on
Yes.
June 6th.
Yes.
It's going to be in the afternoon, sometime
Yes.
between 2 and 6. We haven't figured out exactly when yet.
I thought they gave us a time.
They might have given you a time.
I think it's... I want to say 2 or 3.
Okay.
I'll look it up. Damn it. Now I feel like really
We are
unprepared.
going to be at the
We'll be there.
Olympia Comics Festival, and you should come out and see us if you're at all able to do so.
Yes.
And Joe, you had a announcement.
I do. I threw this up on the Facebook page late last week.
Yeah.
But I've been listening to a podcast that I really enjoy. It's the Fake Geek Girls.
Mm-hmm.
And it's put on by 2 quite excellent people that I recently had the pleasure of meeting. But you should check them out. Of course, I'm totally spacing on their website, but I think we can throw it up in the description of the episode.
Yes, we can absolutely do that. And if you search Google for Fake Geek
Geek
Girls
Girls
podcast, you'll
and
definitely
look
find it.
past
Add
all
the podcast part.
podcast, because otherwise you're going to get a whole bunch of shit that'll just make you mad. But yeah, and stop by their Facebook page if you haven't already. Show them some love because they talk about some very cool stuff. They talk about representation and women in comics and
Yeah.
a lot of really cool stuff. And they're great people.
This sounds
so.
distinctly anti-American.
It is. And then they're trying to
In the
turn
best
the whole
possible
world
way.
into lesbians, and they're trying to turn all men into sissies and all women into lesbians and burn the flag.
I don't
Sorry,
think
the
you should
the
put
proper
words
term
in their mouth.
is beta. They're trying to turn men
Oh
beta.
yeah, you're absolutely right. It's the betification. Not
Jeez.
beautification, but betification.
I thought beta fish were like super aggressive, though.
Yeah, I
don't they
don't get. I
kill
never
other
understood that term.
But
Like,
not in the terminology of alpha male.
Yeah,
Oh,
that's true.
sorry.
Shouldn't it be the
If you've ever seen an
omega-fication?
alpha fish, you
I
would
guess.
know.
I don't know. The gamification?
Yeah, gamma technically is the last letter.
No, I'm sorry. The lambdification. The landification of America
all right.
is apparently what they're
I'm
after.
so glad that you were able to give a shout out and also make their podcast just full of your dirty words.
Oh, God.
I was really hoping that you were going to say, "Oh, there's this really great podcast you should check out. It's called View from the
It's called View
Gutters."
from the Gutters. These fucking people are insane, but they say 5 words in an episode that I agree with.
If you
I
think
don't
about
know.
it, advertising on our own show, we have 100% market penetration.
That's
Oh,
true,
yeah.
actually.
we
Nailed
are
it.
appealing directly to our core demographic.
Yeah, like no, very few people can fucking boast that.
That's true. We should start an advertising firm.
So really, what you want to do is go directly to the people that are already using your service.
Yep.
Because
Nailed
that's
it.
going to be your best audience.
Nailed it. Anyway, this week that was all the announcements, right? That was all 3. Okay,
that
good.
is all of them.
Jumping in this week, we're talking about Pretty Deadly,
By Kelly Sue DeConnick and
Emma
Rios.
Rios, with colors by Jordie Bellaire.
Woot.
Yeah.
And Kayleigh, you pitched this book.
Yes.
I did.
Would you like to get us started?
Sure, I'm actually prepared for it this time.
Hooray.
Yes, as opposed to every other time when you are completely unprepared
Yay.
and don't have 2 or 3 pages of incredibly tiny handwriting notes.
I got a new notebook. It's not lined, so I can put as much as I want on a single page. And I don't think anybody understands just how exciting this is. I think I have about 30 lines on this page, and it's fantastic. Anyway, So,
Troubles brewing.
Yeah, I'm trying to decide where to start. So, Pretty Deadly opens and follows the story of Sissy, a young girl in a vulture cloak, and her companion Fox. And they are telling the story of Deathface Ginny, who they sort of bill as this god, this reaper of vengeance. And it's a very old-timey sort of tall tale. Death rides on the wind for you, my child. And it's really cool, and there's just all this imagery, and you, as the reader, like, oh, why are they telling this story? And then it kind of carries on, and you find out that Deathface Ginny and this whole story is real, and that it's very relevant to the main protagonist. And
both Fox and Sissy.
Yeah, and Toby and I actually had a sort of brief conversation about this, where there are a lot of main characters, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they are the protagonist.
Well, I said that specifically in regard to Deathface Ginny.
Yes.
Like, I think that she is the central character of the series.
Yeah.
But I don't see her as the protagonist, which is a little bit odd.
Yeah, I mean, it happens sometimes. I mean, often the titular character will not be the true protagonist. The story will be about a different character.
Right. And I get the sense that she's going to be kind of the one character that's carried over into the next volume. Although it remains to be seen if she's going to take on a more central role, or if, again, she's going to be kind of a background character to others.
Sometimes with stories like of that nature, they will do like a character who will appear in like serialized stuff, but the story is always kind of about like Conan. Some of his stories tend to be more about other people than they are about him. So
well, it's kind of like Sandman too.
Yeah, absolutely.
A lot of the stories are actually about Morpheus himself.
Absolutely.
I actually found this story really confusing to begin with, because there were all of these different characters, and I didn't quite know who they were, or what their roles were, or what their relationships were. But I did find that as things kind of got towards the conclusion and I had a better sense of who everybody was, I started enjoying it a lot more. And I feel like if I went back and read it a second time, I would really, really enjoy it.
Yeah.
Well, I think because I read a lot of reviews, I like to read reviews so I can shut down possible opposition to things I am passionate about.
Who would ever be contrary or oppositional on this show, Kayleigh?
I don't. Yeah, you guys are all just, you're so beta. Dang it, I lost my train of thought. Oh, but somebody was saying that there isn't a lot of essentially exposition. They worded it differently, but what they were saying was there's not a lot of exposition. I don't know what's going on. And for that, they gave the book a very low rating, and it was like, this is crap writing. But I think it follows the tradition of a lot of spaghetti westerns, specifically like The Good, Bad, and the Ugly, where when Clint Eastwood comes on screen, you don't really know who he is. You just kind of figure it out.
Well,
And very basic level, you figure it out, because he is the man with no name.
Yeah.
And so it's less about... It's more about the story and the plot that's driving it, and less about, this is the story of this person. It's more, this is the story of these events.
Well, yeah.
And I think it's sort of interesting how people can be really oppositional to that level of storytelling, particularly in comics.
I think referencing the Man with No Name trilogy is appropriate, because this is, I mean, the spaghetti western is definitely what this is drawing on, and Deathface Ginny definitely has that feel. The thing, so the Man with No Name trilogy is 3 films. It's a trilogy. It's A Fistful of Dollars, A Few Dollars More, and The Good, the Bad, and the Ugly. And he is called the Man with No Name. It's called that, but people call him different things. His name is Joe, or it's
Mulberries. A Fistful of Dollars is based loosely on Yojimbo by Miyazaki.
Absolutely.
And Miyazaki, in Yojimbo, they ask him what his name is, and he points to mulberry bushes.
Yeah.
And he's like, "That's me." And
Yeah.
they're like, mulberries?
But the Man with No Name, or Joe, or whatever you want to call him, is while he is the central character, he is largely being caught up and carried in the events that are that are happening around him. And in the first, in a Fistful of Dollars, it's the town that's being it's the story of like turning the. Wait a minute. No,
I've never actually watched A Fistful of Dollars, but if it's Yojimbo, it's the two like clans or the gangs that are rivals over the like gold mine or something like that.
And the town, yes. Because it's been done in several Red Harvest. Dashiell Hammett was there's two.
You said Red Dawn, and I was like,
Red Dawn. No, I meant Red Harvest. Yeah.
When the Russians show up and try
when
to
the
take the
Russians
gold
show up
mine.
and Wolverines and Patrick Swayze. So
was really confused.
This is really good. And
Chris Hemsworth? North Korean?
Chris Hemsworth and Edgar, directed by Edgar Winters.
Anyway.
I just put words together. I don't really think about them very much. But I was really struck by that feel where you're not... Deathface Ginny definitely has an origin, and The Man with No Name does not. You're kind of left to kind of figure out that he's been in places and seen things, but he never gives you... history. He talks. To say he talks sparsely throughout those films is an overstatement. I mean, he says almost nothing because he's a man of action, right?
We have a lot of other cages that are kind of more like The Man with No Name, I think, because we have Coyote and we have Big Alice.
Yeah,
where both of them we don't know their origin stories.
Yeah.
We don't.
Yeah,
I think that whatever his name is, Jim Coyote.
Yeah.
I think he's Coyote, the trickster god.
Yeah, but we don't know.
Right, we don't.
Yeah.
But like Deathface Ginny, we have a origin story for her. I don't know if it's even though we saw these events happening, I don't know if that's necessarily the definitive
origin story. Yeah,
origin story for her, because she's very much a ghost story.
Yeah, and that's kind of the thing is that I think it's very based in that mythos of
this is a fairy tale. And we heard one telling of events. That doesn't mean that is the definitive telling of events.
Well,
different stories happen in different ways depending on who's telling them.
Yeah, and the beautiful thing about it, I think, is, and what kind of enamors me, what I'm enamored with about it, is the fact that Westerns are awesome. And
I'm glad that that's your takeaway from all this.
Anybody but they're hard. That's why you don't see a lot of them. They're difficult to do right.
You see a lot. I mean, you don't anymore see a lot of Western films.
When was the last Western you saw? I mean, and I'm not talking about like
310 to Yuma or
something like an
Cowboys
actual Western, like The Quick and the Dead or
Cowboys and Aliens,
Tombstones.
Why doesn't 310 to
Yuma get the fuck out?
I think the last one, was the Leonardo DiCaprio one. Was that The Quick and the Dead?
Yes.
That was a while. I think 310 to Yuma came out after that.
Well, no, but it was a remake.
But it was a remake.
Well, they also remade True Grit pretty recently.
True Grit was also a
True
remake.
Grit.
Yeah.
Right, which...
the assassination of Jesse James by the coward, whatever, Robert Ford. That was a straight-up Western.
Yeah, and it was, but you don't... there was definitely a time where they were...
I mean, there are still Western novels coming out. People still write
There's still
Westerns.
Western films coming out. They just don't get big triple.
Well, and that's the thing. It's there aren't a lot of big budget Westerns being made when they used to be pumped out fucking.
It's not the 70s.
They just made the Lone Ranger.
But even in the 70s, you had a lot of revisionist Westerns being put out, but a large amount of the Westerns coming out in the 70s were foreign made. They were made in Italy. So
Django Unchained would probably be the most recent Western.
There you go.
That's fair.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Yes.
That would probably
Everyone at home that was yelling that.
Yeah.
Brant heard you.
Calm down. We heard you. Even by the late 70s, you had revisionist Westerns being done, stuff like Little Big Man, which were looking at history through the eyes of not this fucking kind of bullshit Manifest Destiny, red meat eating, John Wayne kicking ass, killing Indians.
The spaghetti westerns were already second wave westerns.
Yes.
And we are well into a third, if not a fourth wave of western media.
Well, and that's the thing. You had but they had already lost a lot of that luster that they had in the 50s and 60s, where you had
those were definitely like the Annie Oakley and like the
Well, you
like the
had
shiny,
things
spangly westerns were like just some good old boys doing American stuff.
those are
When
some
did
of-
they make
I mean-
Who Killed or The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance?
Yeah.
Because I mean that was early 60s, late 50s.
That would have been, I think it's early to mid 60s because Jimmy Stewart is like fucking 50 in it and he plays
and
a law
and
student.
John Wayne has already like stopped caring.
but I mean, he's great in that
Right,
movie.
but like even at that point, the shine was off of westerns.
Oh, yeah. No, that's definitely an exploration of... And that's actually a really good point, because I think Liberty Valance, The Man Who Shot Liberty Valance, gets into this idea of mythology. And the West is very much a part of American mythology because of terms you throw around like Manifest Destiny, of this like great taming of the wild and men driving cattle across rivers and plains against all odds to build a farm and make their mark and carve their piece out of the land.
Yeah,
And,
I mean that goes
Well,
that goes way the hell back to the founding of this country as like this is the promised land, the place that we can go and settle and have a new home and
Yeah.
yada yada yada.
Well, we may forget, hopefully we don't, that most of this American tradition of Western American history that we're talking about is built on the backs of the fact that people already lived here. And
Well,
so
that's-
it was a conflicting time. It was a time of, hey, this is our new land, and the people who lived there going, what are the fuck are you doing on
yeah,
our land?
like, this is
and
we're already here.
this, we have the traditions of Western folktale and fairy tales are very much borrowed from European, with the exception of Native American folktales, like you say, Coyote the trickster god, and like all of the rich folklore about the afterlife and gods and spirituality, that each Native American tribe had their own kind of individual stories that they told too. So there was this really rich folklore, tradition, culture, history that essentially got wiped out by that Western expansion. And so as like shiny and sugar coated as they could make it in the early Western stories, the stories very much became tales of crime, bloodbaths, war, conflict. Like you can't really tell a Western story without it being in some way a crime story.
And it's interesting that this is a story about a new death replacing an old death.
Yeah.
Like new myths, new gods replacing old ones.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah, so many Westerns are crime stories, bank robberies, train robberies, that kind of stuff. And this is a really interesting story because it was like he like stole a woman and then locked her away as if she were a possession, which I think is very telling of the way that this story is told, and the fact that the majority of the characters in the story are women, but also just that this is a story about women.
Yeah.
And this is the wrath of one woman who was treated like an object by two different men.
Yeah, and that's really the interesting part, that first Mason locks her away in the tower and she prays to death to release her.
Yeah.
And when death comes, it's just another level of imprisonment.
Yeah, I left one prison for another one is one of, basically a line she says in the book.
One of the very few lines that she says.
Yeah. And oh my God, I do have to quick jump to art. We'll come back to it, I know. But the way he fucking the way she draws the wife, the Deathface Ginny's mother. What, does she have a name?
No, it's just Beauty.
Beauty.
Yeah.
She looks
Which is probably
fucking
intentional.
amazing in like the all black, and there's like so many levels of dark colors.
Well, it's very Persephone style of
her hair is so long.
so long.
I super love the design on Deathface Ginny.
Yeah.
But I
super
wanted
love
to
all
talk
the
about
fucking designs in
Me
this
too.
book. Jesus
Big
Christ.
Alice. She's my homeboy.
I wanted to talk about this in particular because Kelly Sue DeConnick had a panel recently, or probably not recently, probably a couple years ago. But I'm going to pretend like it was recently.
If your scope of time that you're looking at is since the universe was created.
Shut up,
then
Joe.
Yes, it is recently.
Yeah,
Shut
very
up.
recently.
It's all
Thank
about
you, Joe.
relative.
Shut up.
Time.
Shut up.
Where she was
Make me.
talking about Deathface of Pretty Deadly while it was coming out. And I think at the time it was really only on issue like 2 or 3. And she had said that when she first started writing it, she was looking at all the characters that she had sort of pitched and built, and realized that most of them were women. And she's like, oh, I need to fix that. There's an awful lot of women in this comic. And then she stopped and got really angry at herself. Like, no, nobody would think that of a comic that's all men. Nobody would think, there sure are a lot of men in this comic. It would just be like, yeah, that totally makes sense. Yeah,
well,
whatever.
hopefully now modern comic
now.
book writers would go, there's an awful lot of men in here. Let's shake things up a bit. But yeah, she's right. For so long. Reminds me of the Ruth Bader Ginsburg. That's the Supreme Court justice, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
Where
the
she's
perfect
like,
one.
how many women do you think should be on the Supreme Court? And she's like, all 9? Like, there have been 9 men and no one gave a shit, so why not? You know?
She's awesome.
Yeah, me too.
But Kelly Sue
I'm
DeConnick-
paraphrasing, but...
Kelly Sue DeConnick, she's talking about that, and because she's like sitting up at her table, she slams a book down and she's like, I'm not a goddamn variant cover. Like, female characters are not the variant here. And I thought that was really cool, and I really appreciate that this book even more so for that.
Yeah.
But one of the things I want to talk about too is kind of what you guys are touching on, where there's definitely a whitewashing of like Westerns and American culture. And if you look at the characters who are in here, it's a prostitute, it's several men of low character, low social status, a young girl, a older, or like a woman who has probably aged to be about late 20s, early 30s, but she's also like endless. So the mother, Sarah, who is a black woman who has her own ranch, is stuff like that. And I think it's really interesting how all these characters have been shoved to the side so often in traditional Westerns and traditional American history. And so not only is this a story about them, but it's a story wherein they address how they've been shoved to the side. Like, Sarah has this excellent speech about how, or she lifts up a rock and there are all these scorpions that are like underneath. And she said, these are me and my folk. You might fear us, but we always look up knowing that we could be crushed at your whim.
Well, no, she says you don't fear us. You don't even think about us unless you see us.
Yeah.
But we're always watching you because you can...
Yeah.
Like, and then she's like, the way I've survived is by staying the fuck out of the way. Which
But-
I thought was very telling, yes. But I love how, like, this book... I liked it on every level that I think you can like a book. But the main reason I liked it is because it was ballsy. It was ballsy to make a Western that was woman-centric. It was about women. Most of the characters in it were women. And there was no quarter given on that. You know, the Western has always been, by and large, a man's world. And it is it is one of those genres that is associated very strongly with masculinity. The
Well,
whole
and,
idea of the cowboy, and about, like, look at Shane, look at Rooster Cogburn, look at fucking John Wayne.
It was often associated with that might makes right mentality,
Absolutely,
too, which
yeah.
is very much tied to that, like,
This kind of
I got a gun, I'm a man, I can do what I want kind of stuff.
Not just a gun, a righteous gun.
Yeah, and I
Like-
think a lot of the really interesting Western stories that have kind of turned that trope around are ones where it's like, you know, that guy with the gun who just thinks that he's all powerful because he's
Yeah.
out there to do whatever he wants. That's actually the villain.
Well,
Let's
look
tell a story
look
about
at
that.
True Grit, where Rooster Cogburn is the fuck up.
Yeah,
he's not very good at what
Yeah.
he's a bitter old coot, and
Yeah.
he ends up not. I mean, if it was left to him,
Yeah.
nothing. That story ends badly,
Right.
You
and
know?
I think that this is funny because it almost starts at the end of that kind of story where it's the main character, or Fox, one of the main characters, he is now a washed up, blind old man because he was the might makes right guy. And he's like, I got this woman, I'm going to lock her in this tower. I'm going to keep her away from everyone. And it blows up in his face. And now he's almost on a path to redemption, but at the same time, like, he knows there's no redemption in it. That's one of my favorite parts, is like the end of his story is like when he and Ginny are fighting, and she's like, how dare you beg for mercy? He's like, I'm not begging for mercy, I just want you to listen, you know? Like, I know I don't deserve mercy. He's kind of seen the error of his ways, but in no way thinks that makes what he did right. Yeah. Well, I like that.
It's cool too, because in that scene, the speech that he makes her listen to isn't of, you know, I was a fool back then or anything like that. It was, you think killing me is going to quench the fire in your stomach, and it won't. And he's speaking from experience in that. And I think that's really cool, because he's trying to be a mentor, but at the same time acknowledging that he has no right to be that. But he wants to be useful, because in some ways he is her father.
Yeah.
And so he wants to impart some fatherly advice, but also knows that he is her enemy and has no right to her. So,
yeah.
Isn't he saying, he's not saying anything about himself. He's saying Sissy. He's saying you think killing Sissy will fucking fix your problems, but
no, he's talking about her killing him, because she doesn't care about Sissy. She's there to kill him, as far as I know.
Yeah, she doesn't
even know about Sissy at that point, does she?
And then that's
well, he says, you think my blood will make you whole, you think it'll cool your fire, it won't, nothing will, and I can't give you what you want until you look after the girl.
Right. He's trying to get her to look after Sissy, because Death is trying to kill Sissy.
Right.
So that to end the cycle, because he knows that if he dies, then Sissy becomes Death, and then the whole cycle starts over again. But Fox is trying to give Sissy to Ginny, because he knows Ginny will stand up to Death.
Yeah. Well,
so he's saying, like, you think that killing me is going to end this, but I can't let you do that until you look after the girl.
Well, and I like that too. I like that wasn't, there's always some like long-winded fucking explanation or excuse or reason why somebody was a fucker, and I like that he didn't do that. I think it was really, I agree with you. It was really cool where he was just like, I know I'm gotta die. Like, that's not the issue here, but you've got to hear me out first. And like, it wasn't groveling or being like, I was a different person back then.
Yeah.
I was young and stupid. Blah, blah. It's just like, fuck yourself.
Yeah, he's
like,
not asking for forgiveness. Yeah. Like, he knows he doesn't deserve it. And I think that that's a really interesting kind of twist on that character. I also really like the like old man mentor trope, and how this is kind of like playing with that too. Brant, what did you think of that about this?
You've been quiet, Brant.
Yeah, been pretty quiet.
Channeling the inner man with no name.
He's like, it's all right.
So, one of the things that came up for me about this book is that it's hard, because I think you really want to create an environment where people take bold chances and try to do things. I think the challenge then becomes, and I think we've talked a little bit about this in other mediums, that when you then try to up the game that you're playing, the game is more technically difficult. So I like Kelly Sue DeConnick's work. I think she does some great stuff. I think that she's been, the things that I've read of her, primarily in the superhero realm, are very well done and really speak to that particular genre. This, I didn't walk away from feeling as keenly about her skill as a writer. That's not to say that this is a bad book. And I'd be curious to really get, like, this is one of those things that I know comes up a lot in depending on who you are and like what your interests are with text. But like, how much is intentional, how much is accidental, and how much, like, and I think it's even harder because she's not solely responsible for the things that are on the page. But when I think about so there's a couple of different things that are happening in the story, right? There's the magical realist element, like the kind of surface magical realist element. It's Westerns with magic. There's this very clear intent of, and we've actually thrown out different words: myth, parable, fairy tale, the thing that complicates this for me is that those different types of stories actually have slightly different conventions, and that's where I start walking away from this book feeling a little muddled. Because usually at the heart of it, myth, for instance, tends to be simple. Like they can seem complicated to read them. Like if I go read some Grecian myths, they seem a little convoluted, but that's in part because I don't have the social understanding of some of the concepts that they bring up. The same happens with like Native American myths.
Right.
Like when it's like, and then Crow, caught the rock of the world and dropped it into the ocean of memory. You're like, well, that's not simple at all, but it is within the fabrication of that mythic structure, right?
Yeah.
But then fairy tales and parables tend to be maybe more gray. They don't necessarily have as much of a strong intent for their narrative resolution. There's an intention of kind of creating a feeling of what if or a question mark. And then, of course, there's sort of the magical realism part, which is more about interacting with the concept of magic projected against like maybe more realistic struggle. And so for me, what I kind of walked away with was that I felt like, and I know Tobiah said something about this, and I think maybe you did too, Joe, was like, I was kind of lost until like the very end. Mm-hmm. And so sometimes it's like, and it's harder in comics, I think, to know whether or not that's intentional. I feel like if you watch a film and then everything kind of neatly packages itself up at the end, that is very clearly 95 or 99% of the time a skillful execution. Mm-hmm. It's very difficult to get someone through 95 minutes of film and then wrap it all up and have somebody walk away and be like, oh. I feel like in comics, because of the medium, you can do that accidentally, or you can kind of get saved in a way by the visuals that you're not solely responsible for, like due to a kind of a weird personal. And this is hard for me. This is one of the reasons why I've been quiet for so long, is I'm really trying to find a way to articulate what I have to say. So like, for me, there's this narrative framing device that begins the very beginning of the story and then the beginning of the issues, right?
Bunny,
butterfly,
yeah.
and
Bones Bunny,
bunny, rabbit, whatever, exchanging this story.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Toby made a comment before, like the thing about myth is that it's mutable, right? Like it's about the core concept. But this story isn't. It can be about some core concepts, but there's a lot of energy spent on the narrative specifics, mm-hmm. the dialogue, the specific struggles and journeys of its individual pieces. And so I feel like it's harder to walk away with the exit device of being like, and that is a story of this, and there may be other stories for another day, and feel like if I was supposed to walk away and be like, this is an interpretation, not the interpretation, I didn't feel that was clear.
Well, when Toby brings that up, like, I also didn't feel like this was like, this is a maybe myth. It felt like these events happened. And I feel like it was told in the style of a myth, with the framing device being the style of a myth, but that I wasn't supposed to go, this is one possible outcome of that myth. Like, this was information that was imparted. Like, these things happened, and they did happen. Yeah. And like the way a myth is told, like, Zeus did that thing, and then he went over there, and now there's babies, and that.
Yeah,
like,
but
it's told in a very, like...
Yeah, although, I mean, but I feel, so I agree with you on one level, but on the other level, I'm kind of like, it's overly complicated to meet that kind of simpler criteria. Like, Zeus made babies over here. It's like, well, like, yes, at its heart, this is the story of Sissy and Ginny, and then the characters who kind of align them up for the passage of the old gods to the new gods, right? Or a new god, at least in specific,
right?
And there are some things, the Raven, like the actual Raven,
right?
Coyote, Johnny Coyote,
that was it.
All of these things, and so, but what I didn't walk away being like, oh, Kelly Sue DeConnick understood very clearly the native tropes she was using. She deployed them artfully and executed this with pure intention. I kind of walked away being like, yeah, you touched on these things. Did you mean to the extent? Did Emma Rios cover your ass in a certain sense? Or was that the intention? Because you notice that Kelly Sue DeConnick is noted as scripts, not writer. Right. Which I feel like is usually an intended thing to signal that the other people are inputting some of the artistic notion to carry the story to its conclusion. I guess basically what I'm walking away from is that this is the comic book equivalent of not an art house film maybe, but Like, you can get a lot out of this, but if you're not of a certain kind of reader, I think it'll come across as pretentious.
Yeah.
And it will definitely be a title that I think people will argue over how much of it was intended to be as fancy or as deep or as meaningful as it was, or as people believed it.
I want to respond to that directly. And I think the biggest hint that this is supposed to be a work that you need to interpret is when Sissy is waking up after the flood, and she first sees a woman and a coyote, and then she sees a raven and a man. Mm-hmm. And you're getting a sense that you're seeing...
It's a crow, but...
Or a crow, excuse me. Like, you're seeing that they have a dual nature, that they're not just one thing, and that the images that you're seeing are a particular set of characters' interpretation of these events.
Right. Well, but that...
And it reminds me specifically of Paradise Lost, where at the very beginning, I guess it's not the beginning. It's actually after the beginning. Adam and Eve are in the garden, and an angel comes to visit them and says, there's been a war in heaven. And he describes it to them as consisting of, like, cannons and, like, battle regiments of soldiers fighting. And he basically says, and it's been a while since I read it, and I'm not sure if it's the author speaking to the audience or the angel speaking to Adam and Eve, but they basically say, this isn't what actually happened, because the thing that actually happened is not something that you can understand. So I'm putting it in terms that you will recognize. Like, an actual war in heaven is an immaterial thing. It doesn't look anything like a mortal war, but this is the closest analogy we can give to you for existential concepts battling one another.
Right, and I guess I think that's hard to articulate well in a visual medium.
Right, and I agree with that. And I think that she does an all right job here. But I feel like the biggest counterpoint to maybe people aren't going to get it is actually something that I specifically wanted to talk about, which is the fight between Deathface Ginny and Big Alice, which is fucking awesome. Like, there are enough moments that just look cool that I just enjoyed reading in this book, that everything else aside, like, there are a lot of little nuggets to take home.
Yeah, I guess, having not been present for the Sandman long run and haven't listened to that episode yet, one of the things that I walk away with Sandman, and I can feel myself feeling this way about Pretty Deadly, is that I think that it's good that this book exists. I think it's good that people enjoy it. I think it's good that it is not necessarily easy to read. I think that there needs to be things that are challenging. I think that it's going to be kind of a divisive title moving forward, in so much that I think a large group of people, or a stable group of people, are going to say, this is art, this is deep, this is meaningful, this is whatever, and a bunch of people are going to be like, you know what, like, good for you, but I think it's a pretentious pile of shit. And the reality for me, being the kind of moderating person that I am that drives some of my friends crazy, is I'm like, actually, I think both can be true. Like, there are things that are great about this, and I think that in the hands of lesser people, writing and art, it would have fallen apart. It would have fallen apart, period. And I didn't walk away being like, fuck this book, I'm never reading this again. I actually walked away from it being like, I really want to read this like 6 more times and pull out all of my mythic toolbox and really like tear this apart and figure out how much I feel like this was intentional or accidental, and even if it isn't, like what based on what's the page, what is this really talking about? Because the interesting thing for me is that especially in Native American mythic traditions, especially some of the ones that it feels like they're pulling off here, is the notion of kind of like something you were alluding to with your Paradise Lost reference, but it's a little bit different, which is like the wheel within the wheel within the wheel. Like, many forces are acting, and so it's like, yeah, the main stage may be death and translation to his daughter, but there's clearly other pieces happening. There are other characters who we don't have full explanations for, and then of course there's other volumes to come, and who knows how much Deathface Ginny will interact with those other people post this that will expand or contract on that potential. But
feel like I mean, I understand what you're saying, and I definitely think that I think that it's a valid thing to kind of question, but I also feel like this book you can put in and take out as much as you'd like. I really think that you could read this book just as a straight up Western and be just as pleased with it. Like,
see, I think I know a lot of folks who would read straight up Westerns and be like, what the fuck is this dead rabbit, crow, like all these things talking, visions of death, like stuff.
I mean, that's like 6 to 8 pages at
I mean, but it's still it's fairly mythic in its value though. Like I agree with Brant where it's like, I mean, a key character in the story is the physical daughter of the god Death.
Yeah, but I mean, it's not necessarily...
I mean, I guess if you want to just turn off everything and just go, and the fight was fun. People who like Westerns might like the fight. Like, I get at some point, yeah, I could sort of get behind that. I think the art and the packaging is enough that even if you didn't read any of the dialogue boxes, you could still enjoy looking at the experience that went by.
I think the story that it tells is multifaceted, but I in no way think that... I mean, I feel... I guess the thing I'm taking exception to, and that's a way too strong way to put it, but I can't think of any way else to say it, is I definitely... like, the line between... Like, when you talk about art, this is art. And when you talk about, this is pretentious bullshit, like...
That's also art.
Well, yeah, and that's the thing, right? It can also be...
That's what Brant's saying, where it's like, it can be...
It definitely can be both, but I feel...
Well, and I also think that you were also saying that, like, it can not only be good... I don't know. On the long run, which you weren't here for, I said a very similar thing about Sandman, which is, I think it's possible to respect something and still not enjoy it. Like calculus. I respect that it exists. I know it's important. I don't like it.
Well, let's bring up something that Joe often refers to. The original movie, Solaris. Yeah. There are plenty of people who can respect it for its technical capabilities, even for what it did for narrative structure and film, but still will be like, I will never fucking watch that film because it's dull as shit.
All of them.
Yeah.
and I guess that's what I was trying to allude to when I prefaced by being like, the thing that's hard about escalating a book to this level is that then in some ways it actually can be torn apart. Like, Michael Bay lives or dies by how well he puts his explosions on screen and how likable the characters are. Like, The Rock stands as a fantastic piece of action filmmaking because not only of the way he shot it, but of all the pieces that are in it.
Nicolas Cage mostly.
Nicolas Cage mostly. I don't know. Sean Connery does it for me.
But he's all right.
You're the Rocket Man, Chard.
But, you know, if you add another kind of existential layer to that film, then there's another way to kind of tear it down and approach it and attack it. I understand. And so what I'm saying is, what I'm trying to just allude to is that I don't feel like you can say, hey, are you a fan of crime stories? Are you a fan of John Wayne Westerns? Read Pretty Deadly. Like, that, I don't think that's...
Well, no, if you push it too hard, you get Ang Lee's The Hulk, which was trying to reach an audience that I don't know necessarily exists. You know, he was trying to bring an art house sensibility to a character whose essential and defining characteristic is smash. Yeah. You know, it's like, it didn't work.
So he's a man-sized Godzilla.
He is a man. Why is that not the subtitle to his book?
I got that right when Brant was drinking.
Why is that?
I would like to interject a fan question that we actually had from the live stream. Brian May was curious as to whether you, Brant, subscribe to Dead Author Theory.
I subscribe to the Dead Authors podcast.
I'll be honest that I don't know exactly what that.
It's the death of the author. Whether the intentions of the author are a valid avenue of thought for literary criticism, where that is something that you need to consider versus strictly looking at the text.
Well, so here's the thing. This is what probably makes me I know for a fact it frustrates the shit out of Joe in an entirely different way than you talking to him, Tobiah, frustrates him, which is that I do, but I also don't. Yeah. Like, I feel like the problem is...
There you go, being fucking Brant again.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, no, I agree. I think it's very relevant, except when it isn't.
Yeah, so, you know, like, the big joke that I used to always say is that, you know, maybe Moby Dick is about, you know, the existential, coming to grips with this thing that tears you apart, and, like, you know, analogies for addiction and terror and rage. Or maybe Herman Melville was sitting around and being like, you know what would be fucking cool, guys? A big fucking whale. For all we know, he was the Michael Bay of late 19th century literature. Like,
that was William Shakespeare. Shakespeare. But something I like to say is nothing has to be just one thing.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and
You can interpret it in one way and go, this is an interpretation. And
Now-
then you can interpret it in a very different way and go, this is a different interpretation. And both, even if they contradict, are still equally valid.
Now, what's interesting about this, and I don't want to get too far afield on this, but maybe we should do a back matter and talk about this specific problem, is that now, when we live in the media age that we do, like, I mean, Kayleigh already said it, like, there was a panel 2 years ago where Kelly Sue DeConnick's talking about this. We could go onto Twitter right now and be like, at Kelly Sue, like, do you think this, and this? And she'd be like, no.
Yeah.
Or she'd be like, yeah, absolutely. You know, and then there are some authors who do try to leave up that mystery. I was thinking of a couple of different authors who I was reading recently, and they were basically saying, like, hey, that is one way to think about it. You know, George R.R. Martin does it to a certain extent, but that's because he wants to kind of feed all the weird conspiracy theories about his books.
That's just because he's mining his fans.
Well, of course,
for plot points.
he's the
Like
global
Toni Morrison and how she writes essays on her own books after she's done writing them.
right.
Like,
But then,
Oh my
you've
God.
got the other side where authors are like, this is exactly what I meant. I'm sorry, but nobody, you know, like.
Yeah.
So we live in an era now where you kind of you can have both things, and then I think you do, depending on the fandom, get into some really intense factionalism that, you know, you're like weirdly cannibalizing your own group of people who love a property.
That goes straight back to Watsonians and Doyleists, which is kind of, I mean, it's a very much the source of this. Of if there's an inconsistency in a Sherlock Holmes story, is it because Arthur Conan Doyle fucked up,
Doyle
or
Conan Arthur
because
Watson
told it wrong,
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
changed a detail to cover something up?
Right.
Well, in
So-
this particular book, our narrator is at least what I believe to be the first victim of Deathface Ginny, the bunny.
Well, no, not Deathface Ginny, but Sissy.
Well,
No,
no, the
it
girl
wasn't
who
Sissy.
shoots the bunny at the beginning has golden colored eyes.
Like,
Deathface Ginny.
Oh, and then Sissy has two different colored eyes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I missed that the first time. That's what I mean. Toby was saying, like, going back because I
Yeah,
flipped
and
through
then-
some of it again.
Kayleigh and I were talking about it this afternoon. I totally had not picked up on that.
Yeah.
And like I was flipping back through the book today going, oh my God, what did I miss?
yeah,
Right.
yeah, there's a
want.
lot you need. Sorry, I'm interrupting you, but
No,
Do it.
go,
just
go
one thing.
for it. Get
I'm
it.
sorry.
Get it.
You get as much as you want out of this book as you put in, but at the same time, it does demand a level of activity. You cannot be a passive consumer of
Right.
this.
You have
And
to
I-
be engaged with it.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I feel that way about a lot of things. Maybe there are a few like superhero comics where you can just be a passive consumer, but I feel like you have to do some of the legwork, and I feel like in this case, it's asking you to do a lot of it because it wants you to build your own mythos. It wants you to be a part of that world
Right.
building that she has set up.
And I think it's rewarding for those people who do want to look at it more closely.
Well, and I think when you talk about what evolutions have happened in comics, I think that those are some of the very things you're talking about, Kayleigh, are some of the intangibles that are being brought. It's not that they haven't been before, but I think increasingly more so, it's not just the frontier of the art, right, which is being mined for different layouts and presentations, but the writers have become much more interested in going for that kind of more complex. Like, you know, you pull out a Stan Lee book from 1968, like, I don't think
I'm
you need
gonna
to
hide you in this
don't
water
you'd actually
tower.
you can be a passive consumer, like you flat out can be. Why? Because he will literally tell you what Peter
Yeah.
Parker is thinking. It's no like, well, maybe Peter's tense or maybe he's excited. It's like, gosh, I sure hope I get that vacuum in time to get Sandman because I don't want him to hurt the kids. It's like, oh, well, I know exactly what's happening.
Yeah.
There is no ambiguity.
Right.
My God, did you used to write Marvel
I
comics?
know I did. But yeah, you know, now the stories are much more layered, much more intricate. There's more collaboration with the artists. So of
Yeah.
course the uptick in skill of the artists or the complexity of the artists also leads to this kind of dual.
And I think that brings it back
durability
around
and
to
diversity.
kind of where you started, which was how much of this is Kelly Sue and how much of this is Emma Rios. And like without asking, I don't know that we would 100% know.
And
So
I don't
I
know
was
that it
just-
exactly matters.
I don't either, but
mean,
I
they
think
are co-created.
Yeah,
And
and
I
I
think-
think that's what it
yeah.
comes down to. On the spine, it does not just say DeConnick on it. It says DeConnick Rios. And I
Yeah.
think that's kind of was going to be my response is a lot of times you will find somebody who does the script and the plotting.
Of course.
And
well, look
but
at Alan Moore's
more and
scripts
more-
versus like anyone else.
Yeah, right. It's like more and more I think you're seeing people that are working together not just because this one can write and this one can draw, but because they share passion
Interests.
about an idea. And so I don't think that any writer would ever write with somebody, especially when they had a choice, that was not going to kind of that they did not have simpatico with, that they needed to like. I think that this is a thing where Rios is kind of doing the things that she needs to do to fulfill the story that Kelly Sue envisioned, because I think it's something. This feels like a project. It does not feel. I think you can feel that disjoint. Like when you get somebody working, every once in a while I'll pick up a book, and I can't think of any right now you see it in the early Sandman where like.
I have the perfect example.
Kieran
Gillen has been quoted on Twitter referring to his biggest fuck up ever. He misspelled the word loin, as in loincloth, and then it's just a picture of Cyclops with a lion skin on his head. Because he wrote the word loincloth wrong. And that changed the way that the comic went. Because,
a lion cloth?
Yes.
That's because Cyclops has the soul of a lion. Anyways.
It was obvious that he wrote a script, he gave it to the artist drew it.
Yeah, that
was it.
I think there's a disconnect too with people that don't work together, or I think it doesn't flow as well. One of the things I love about Image is that so many of their works, so many of the books they put out feel like collaborations, and so there is this kind of seamless blending.
There's a major difference between the way Image publishes comics and the way the DC and Marvel publish comics, and I'm not nothing about who's better or whatever, but like when you go to DC and you start writing for DC, they'll be like, all right, turn in a script, here you go, here's the artist that's going to be doing that, awesome, here you go, artist, here's the script from that writer, and then we as a company have matched you up and we'll put this out, and sometimes you get to work with people you want to, but when you bring a book to Image, you and the author and the artist both have to be there pitching the book, going, this is what we are going to make. And that's a huge difference in just the way you make comics.
Well, I think that's changing, though. I think that's very clear at this point the big two are both. I mean, Marvel clearly has already allowed that to happen, at least in some extent.
Well, and it's just like when you come to Image, like you are a team.
Sure.
Bringing something to Image, and like when you work with, not the way the Marvel and DC do it is wrong, it's just like it is different, and so that's why books like Pretty Deadly and many other Image books that I've brought in the last 52 weeks of Image, shameless plug for myself,
on something you're gonna do in a few minutes,
like that's why they feel so, I don't know, they're working in concert. Yeah. These are two professionals doing what they do best together.
It would be really nice if somebody in the live stream knew what week of Image it was and could tell us that in time for our recommendation section.
Brandon.
But we don't live in an era where it's like I turn in a script and that gets mailed off to an artist and they do their best with it. Like if an artist is drawing something and they're like, I'm not quite sure what the writer intended here. Here, let me Skype him up and just ask him hey Jim, while I'm drawing this, what did you think about doing this panel in this way?
Well, Art Baltazar and Franco talk about how they do the whole issue on Skype together. They are drawing and talking together the whole time.
I think that's true that there's a lot of capability there, but I think there's still circumstances.
Oh
where
yeah,
that
sure,
happen.
Absolutely.
The one comment that I will make is that So even though there's been different filmmakers on all of the different Marvel movies up until this point, they do have some very strong visual carry-through because of the way they're produced.
Yes.
And while Marvel doesn't necessarily have a house style anymore, I think that our conversation about All New Ghost Rider, clearly they were trying to stay within a certain visual type. And so I just want to advocate that even in that model, you can still get things that are really well made.
Yeah,
and still feel.
I was not trying to say that it's not.
I know, but I feel like it'd be very easy to walk away from what you were saying and be like, that's the better way to do it. You can have people who have technical proficiency who are not necessarily as tied to your story.
Absolutely, and it's not to say that things like Next Wave aren't done in more of an Image style, where it was that team was a team before the writing started, because he wrote it with that artist in mind. That happens at those companies. So I mean, I don't think that one way is better than the other. I just think that it happens.
Right. Well,
to
and they can
be
lead to
that
different
image
results.
is,
Right,
is
no, I
this
think they can
specific
lead.
way. And I think that you can see the collaboration between the art and the colors and the trust in this book that Kelly Sue has in Emma Rios to just go, yeah, this page is not really going to have a lot of words on it. So
do your thing.
you have to carry this narrative through this page. I think that shows a lot of trust between a writer and an artist. And I think that in a book like this, whether you interpret it the way you do or not, like, I think that that's... I don't know. I think that that's difficult for young writers to do, is like step back and leave space for your artist
Oh yeah.
to do the work. So I don't know. This shows talent, in my opinion. But
And
the story does feel incredibly backloaded, though.
yeah.
And you were talking about that earlier, like how can you tell if that's intentional or if that's like, oh, turns out you're only getting 5 issues instead of 6, or oh, you know, you took too long writing those first couple issues and now like you left too much and now the last few feel rushed. I don't know that we'll ever be able to tell.
Sure.
This story did feel like that, but it definitely felt like it built to an impressive amount of stuff that all happened like very quickly.
Right.
You know, like I didn't feel like anything was drug out.
I felt very satisfied by it.
Yeah.
Well, and that's why the dead author thing that Brian was asking about comes into play, because it's like, to a certain extent, like, Kelly Sue may very well at this point be like, that was totally intentional, but we don't know for sure that really was. We can't.
Right.
We can only take
If it
what we
works, it
saw.
was intentional.
That's right.
Yeah.
I
J.K.
totally.
Rowling approach.
That's right.
Yeah. Right.
Before we wrapped up the conversation, we did have a couple of listener questions that I
Yeah.
wanted to get to quickly. The first one is from Lewis Whitford. I hope I'm saying that right. Who asks if anybody has tried the Pretty Deadly perfume.
No,
I like how everybody looks to me.
I did not look at you.
Answered it already on
Yeah,
mine.
I was
I
trying to
did
figure
answer
out
it.
why Chard has 2 Hulks 69ing each other on his
Okay,
desk.
so Eric calls that 68ing because they're not facing each other, and I was like,
That's
that's
fair.
not what that's called. But yeah, they fell over. That's the answer. Quick answer.
That
My
is
Hulks fell over.
That is the answer to has anybody tried the perfume?
My Hulks fell over. That's it. I am going to.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I have it.
Emergency zoo trips had to happen.
Yeah.
Wait. So who made the perfume?
It's Black Phoenix Alchemy.
Yeah, with a K.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. I have it in there. And I linked to their website.
Yeah, on the Facebook.
On the Facebook answer. But it's only $26 for a bottle, which is actually really good for perfume.
Depends on the size of the bottle.
Does
I
it
suppose,
smell of
but-
sandalwood and leather?
No, well, one of them smells. So there are different ones. I'm gonna get really excited about this because I like perfume.
Do it.
The one that I plan on getting is the Reaper of Cruelty. It's Big Alice's perfume.
I bet that smells awesome.
Yeah,
Smells
it's
like blood and butterflies.
pretty much. Yeah, that's a good way of putting it. It's a bergamot, spice, spiced rum, I think. It has blood oranges. It has some, I think it has patchouli in it. There are a couple things. Sounds like it smells really good. Then there's the Deathface Ginny one, which smells like gun smoke and tobacco, which
Nice.
will be the next one I get. Then there's just one for everybody, pretty much, and
Wow.
it's really cool. And all the proceeds from these perfumes go to the comic book
Legal Defense Fund.
Thank you, that
Yeah.
one.
Is
So,
there a Johnny Coyote scent?
there might be. It's cool.
I will tell
because
you-
the perfumes are not gendered, so you can get whatever you want.
I have lotion at home that smells of motor oil and tobacco.
Why? Why would you want that?
I got it in a
If a person
Birchbox.
If a person walked in and smelled like, and you described them as smelling like motor oil and tobacco, I would think of like someone who'd been working on their car and chain smoking all day,
I mean,
which is
it's-
not
They
what
would
I want to
smell like
smell.
my
when
father.
they-
No, it doesn't smell like cigarette smoke.
I know
It
that, but
smells
if you were like, he walked in and he smelled of motor oil and tobacco, I'd
You'd be like,
"Ugh."
when the fuck did I get? When did I wake up in a Raymond Chandler
Yeah,
novel?
yeah.
Please let me out because clearly I'm not the main character.
Yeah.
So briefly, one more question from
Yes.
Tony Asaro. He's talking about Matt Fraction's Odyssey, which is weirdly similar to this book in certain ways. It's a science fiction retelling of Homer's The Odyssey.
Mm-hmm. With all ladies. Everyone is a lady. Except for they broke their own rule, and it made me mad.
And he asks if we think this feels like a direct reaction by Fraction to Pretty Deadly. And he references the broad, somewhat clipped and abstract, very artsy, more poetic than usual writing style, the overt mythic themes, and the pairing with stunning, intricate, dazzling, face-melting, non-traditional artwork.
No.
I would say yes and no. Like, I think that, they live together.
Yeah,
so they definitely
Yes.
are aping each other a lot. Like, I've definitely heard people be like, oh, Kelly Sue's really putting her Matt Fraction gloves on in this one, and vice versa. Like, people are like, oh, man.
Right.
You know, Matt Fraction's really
It's just going
aping
to
his
happen.
wife. Because, I'm pretty sure when they talk about their comic book influences, there's definitely a lot of crossover.
Sure.
As somebody who has known quite a few authors and artists, it's impossible not to be influenced by the people around you.
Yeah, actually, I was just going to specifically mention that because I know that Tobiah and I have talked about it in private, given his background and some of my previous reading. That, like, especially like the science fiction authors of like the 60s and 70s, you could totally see that, like, you were like, okay, well, they were clearly having like a conversation about something.
Oh, yeah.
Robert E. Howard and
My father
H.P.
has gone
Lovecraft.
over this before with me in detail. Basically, there was a small community. They knew each other. One person would write a story with a certain idea in it, and then everybody else would go, oh, I can top that.
Right.
Yeah.
I'm going to write a reaction to
and
that.
even-
I'm going to take the same idea and do it in this other way.
Yeah.
And what I would also claim is that even if it doesn't even have to be overtly a response to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, if you think about what these two people do for a living and kind of the things that they probably honestly collaborate and or exchange ideas and concepts and talk about what they're interested in. Like, so they very well both may have come at this completely sideways and realized that, I mean, for all we know, this is one of the reasons they got together and started hanging out all the time, is because it was like, I love Greek journey myth too.
Yeah.
Like, I really want to talk about, like, the transference of the power of death to another entity. Like, I mean, like, for all you know, like, this is something that they've been talking about for 20 years. Like, who knows? So I don't know that it's, I haven't read much of Odyssey, but
I can see the similarities, and I think that if you like Pretty Deadly, you should check out Odyssey. I think everyone should check out Odyssey just to look at the art, to be honest with you.
It is pretty
like,
ridiculous.
I almost
good
feel
way.
like you don't need to read the words because everybody's read the Odyssey before. And I actually hope that someday they do like a large, oversized version of this without any text. Just,
That would be
just as
interesting.
an art showcase.
Could you pair it up with Dark Side of the Moon, though?
Yeah, absolutely. In reverse.
There was one more
there's-
quick question
yes.
from the listeners. Harley Jackson asked what our favorite post-apocalyptic comics are.
comic.
I like Wasteland a lot. That's Anthony Johnston and Christopher Mitten,
Yeah.
who did the Umbral.
I like Ron Lim's X-Mutants, which you can't get anymore because it's ridiculously out of print and also terrible.
So you like it?
Yep.
Okay.
The Bunker. It's like
I've actually been borrowing The Bunker from a friend of mine for about 2 months and have not finished it. I think Brant pitched it at one point.
I might have.
The Bunker. It's the one where they like get letters that are like, "You're the reason the world's ending."
Yeah, they find a concrete bunker
Right.
with letters from themselves from
the
the future.
future. Yeah, it's
It's
pretty
interesting.
fun.
I read the beginning and I haven't made any progress with it in a while.
Commandi.
Oh yeah.
This is a great
Commandi is
post-apocalyptic comic.
Anybody else got a favorite one?
I might have to. I have to go with that. Commandy, whatever the hell you want to call it. And the reason is that it actually was the beginning of my exposure to post-apocalyptic comics, because my father didn't keep much from his youth, but at one point when my grandfather died, we cleared out the storage space, and my dad had left a blue jean-covered 3-ring notebook, like it had like stretched jeans as the
Like denim.
fabric. Denim, thank
Yeah.
you. And in it, pressed between its pages, was a Commandy #1.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy.
So I read that and was just like, I don't know.
Yeah.
So yeah, there's other things. I was actually having a really hard time being like, like which ones would I consider post-apocalyptic? Because there's some that's on the urge, and like what would I consider my favorite? But yeah, honorable mention to Commandy.
Joe, you got?
I got nothing. I don't read a lot of post-apocalyptic comics. I think
Wasteland, not Wasteland. East of West.
East of West is good. That's what I was
yeah.
thinking of. I guess that
Does
would
sort
qualify
of.
as a post-apocalyptic, but I think more of it as a Western.
Yeah.
So
Does Battle Angel Alita count as a post-apocalyptic?
Yeah, there is
yeah.
an apocalypse that happens that.
Akira.
it's just not. Yeah, I mean, there's definitely those that I've read, but it's just not the whole post-apocalyptic thing. I think is something that I feel strong. I feel the same way that I feel about zombies, which is I've seen it, and unless you have something interesting to say or something I feel that's interesting to say about it, I really don't care that much about it.
Oh, there's also Tales from the Xenozoic
Tales.
Xenozoic
yeah,
Tales.
which Mark
Cadillacs
which
and
is
dinosaurs.
fucking amazing. That's one of the best I've ever read, hands down.
So yeah, there's a bunch.
Yeah. If you haven't checked out Xenozoic Tales, you can get it now. It's back in print thanks to Kickstarter. But yeah, it was reprinted as Cadillacs and Dinosaurs and repackaged
I just
in the
remember
90s.
the cartoon from the 90s.
But the comic is awesome. There's only 13 issues, and it took 20 years to come out. So apparently he's still going. There's going to be more, but he's getting up in
Got all
years.
the power to him.
He's a cartoonist, a cartoon strip cartoonist. So he does daily cartoons or weekly cartoon strips for, I don't remember, some publication. So he's definitely busy and prolific, but I do love the Xenozoic Tales.
So are we ready to move on to recommendations? Or any last thoughts on Pretty Deadly?
The color... Jordie Bellaire, I love you. You're the best colorist right now.
You are one of my favorite colorists.
I love how grainy it is. Do you guys notice that there's grain filters on everything? And it's really noisy color. I loved that.
It was
made
honestly a little bit
like...
frustrating to read on the iPad. The print edition is much nicer.
Yeah, I totally agree. But
you should all read physical books.
Well, that's not always true, Kayleigh. You can have more than one medium.
It's also not always possible.
Not all of us have a bunch of disposable income that we're spending on stupid things
Like perfumes.
special Batman edition PS4s.
Yeah, not all of
Joe.
us have that. Joe.
As excited as I am for that stupid thing, I already rue and lament the fact that I did it.
Yeah. Well, we can't all make
to-
good choices.
Well, it's just, I mean, it's weird because I can afford it, but no matter, I always feel bad spending that much money on myself.
Yeah.
I always,
I should feel bad.
It's a big chunk of change.
it is a big
PS4
thing, and I talked
to get something you're mildly excited about.
I know. I'm like, well, how many games am I going to have for it? I'm like, it has Batman on it, though. Nobody else is going to have Batman on it.
I could spray paint you a Batman right now.
No. I even
Let's
talked
do
to
it.
Kirby. Said she would be mad at me if I didn't get it. So
Well, there you go.
Can't make Kirby mad. Let's
Rex.
move on to recommendations.
And
Recommendations.
Let's start with Kayleigh.
Yeah.
no.
No pressure.
We're changing things up.
Okay, so I was going to recommend something I actually wasn't that excited to read, just because I hadn't pitched it before, and it's the only thing I've read recently. But I'm not going to do that. Surprise! I am going to pitch iZombie because of Joe's comment about not liking zombies unless you're doing something new with them, which I feel this comic does. Follows Gwendolyn Dillon, which if the name alone isn't perfect, then you're dumb. I don't know. But basically she is turned into a zombie and she prevents herself from getting zombie brain by eating the brains of the freshly dead. And she takes on their memories and emotions and skills as she eats their brains. And it's just really cute. It's a lot of fun. It's a easy read. It's not one that demands a whole lot of the reader. And I will be recommending volumes 1 and 2.
Have you been watching the show?
Yes, and I love it.
Are they similar or?
So in the show, it follows another zombie named Liv Moore.
Ew.
Hey, shut up. It's perfect.
terrible.
And she's, instead of being a grave digger like Gwendolyn Dillon is, she is a coroner. for the Seattle Police Department. So it takes a lot of these similar, like,
it basically
core
just changes
concepts.
it basically just changes the character because
It takes the character, it takes the plot, and then changes the name of the character and her profession and all the other characters in it. But I don't mind because it's done by the same people that did Veronica Mars, which the first season of which is a brilliant teen detective show. The second season of which is an okay teen detective show. And the third season, she goes to college, and as all shows that start in high school and go to college, just falls to shit.
Thank you for adding that addendum.
What about Boy Meets World?
And the movie?
What about Buffy the Vampire Slayer?
He's not wrong about Boy Meets World, though.
No,
the college years.
It gets better in college.
It's the exception to the rule.
Ben
Well, now
Savage
you can watch
stopped
Girl
being young
Meets
and
World,
cute.
and you see him teaching. Yeah.
It all comes full circle.
Also,
man.
Saved by the Bell, the college years.
Ooh.
No,
God.
that was an example of what
Yes,
I was
that's
talking
what I'm
about.
saying. That's just garbage.
Okay, Sabrina gets a pass, but only because Punky Brewster was her roommate.
That's true.
All right. Toby, what are you bringing?
In the news today, Tilda Swinton is up for a role in the Doctor Strange movie as the Ancient One.
Love her so much.
Which I think is a really cool thing. So
Yes.
I'm going to pitch a Doctor Strange book.
Yeah.
And I was going to pitch Doctor Strange, Doctor Doom, Triumph, and Torment. But I think I'm going to call an audible and pitch Doctor Strange, The Oath by Brian K. Vaughan.
Yeah.
And the guy who he collaborates with on The Private Eye.
Marcos Martin.
Marcos Martin, I believe, is the team who does that. And it's a really great
it
story
is.
where Doctor Strange finds a magical cure for cancer
Yeah.
and questions whether it should be used.
Yeah.
And it's a really great story, not just of him as a wizard, but of him as a doctor. And it co-stars Night Nurse,
A
who
doctor wizard.
showed up in Daredevil.
Yes.
Why hasn't anybody written a story starring Doctor Strange entitled Doctor Strange's Love?
Because they have sense.
No,
They have
that's the
sense of
opposite
proportion?
of the right answer. Because nobody has any sense.
You could literally just title it Doctor Strange: Love.
That's it. That's
And
it. But it had to be small enough to fit all on the same line.
No.
Yes. I would read the shit out of that story.
I don't know what week of Image it is, but
I don't
what
either.
Image book would you like to pitch this week?
So it is not out in trade yet. The trade is not scheduled to be out until June 24th, 2015. However, all of the issues are in fact out now. And I was really excited about it, and I thought the conclusion was good, so I figured it's worth pitching. So it's a serialized series, but the first arc is a self-contained story and done. And the book is called Wytches by Scott Snyder and Jock, and contains 1 through 6 in the first volume, and that's the first.
Jock did The Losers, right?
Yes.
Okay.
And he did a Constantine story that I really like too, which I cannot remember the name of at the
This
moment.
is a lot darker.
It's very dark, so it's a lot of mixed media stuff. There's a lot of like paint splatter on top of traditional line work. There's like scans and then paint, and it's.
Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
I was just saying, if I recall correctly, this is what Snyder's basically been on the record, who's like, I do all other comics so that I can make this comic. This is my dream. This is my thing. I will be back. It will never die.
Yeah, it's kind of his like pet project because when he was a kid, he in the very first issue, there's this back matter essentially of an essay about like when did this idea start, and it was when he was like 8, and they were out in the woods. And they were just like bumming around at him and his friend, and they found this old like pickup truck that they used to hide out in, and it was like their fort in the woods. And they just one time thought that they saw something coming out of a tree, and that there were people in the trees, and this whole idea of witches as monsters that lived in the woods in the trees that would come away and take you in the night kind of grew up. And like some townsfolk that, as you do with witches in your environment, you have kind of a weird, shady relationship with. And they basically, I don't know how to really describe it without giving too much away, but essentially it's a story of a family and some bad stuff happens to them, and it involves witches and they're monsters that come out of trees. And it's really good horror.
Quick question.
Yes.
Which is worse? The upcoming Vin Diesel Last Witch Hunter movie, or the Season of the Witch, starring Nicolas Cage and what's his butt?
Well, Vin Diesel is clearly going to be the worst one because Nicolas Cage and Ron Perlman on screen together fighting a witch amazing. Was basically an amazing experience.
Yeah, nothing Nicolas Cage does can never be bad. So it has to be XXX in Season of the Witch or whatever that one
with the girl who plays. You know nothing, Jon Snow. You're great.
It starts with the Michael Caine line, and anytime the trailer plays and we're at the movie theater, I'm always like, start doing my Michael Caine Batman impressions. And no, that movie looks like garbage. So
the best part, the finest garbage.
No, this is like just
the most
like
choice cuts of garbage.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
This is not like those things.
Okay.
This is
nothing.
This is
nothing
like that at all. In fact, most horror books, it's not like. It's very dark. It's very atmospheric, but it's very much just like real people dealing with a monster or monsters, and it's some really horrific stuff happens and some very graphic scenes, and not grotesque graphic, but they get in your head and you're like,
Toby's gonna love
that was fucked up.
Well, I already have a very high opinion of Scott Snyder. So.
Yeah,
you do.
There were a couple pages after I read it, I was like, fuck you, like that is fucked up. You cannot do that in the middle.
You were 8 when you came up with this. You're a sick man.
Yeah, so there's just there's like one scene that still haunts me, and it's a hanging basically, and I didn't like it. It freaked me out. So there you go. Everybody read Wytches. I really like it. It's good. If you like horror comics, you have to check it out. It's one of the best ones coming out right now. So
what do you got, Joe?
Well, after that, nightmares. I have. I do want to say as a quick aside, real quick. This weekend, my brother and Kirby watched The Babadook.
I heard that was good.
Which is, and I did not want to watch it because I hate horror movies. I hate horror. I have anxiety and an active imagination, and it's just, I'd rather shoot myself in the crotch. The Babadook was fucking amazing. It's an excellent movie. Only for me barely even classifies as horror. It's much more of like a psychological thriller feel to it, but it's beautifully shot. It's incredibly well made. Go and see it. It's a really good movie.
Side note, I got drunk and saw The Poltergeist on accident last night, and it's not good.
No, of course not. Because
skip
you
that
could
one.
never replace Craig T. Nelson and Joe Beth Williams.
To be honest, the whole time I was watching it, I was like, why am I not watching the original?
Yeah, exactly.
If I had known we were going to that movie, I would have watched the original.
I'm gonna cross pitch something really quickly because I think it's really interesting, and we do have some folks who listen, I think, like horror. If you haven't seen it, go on to YouTube and look up Chris Stuckman, What's Wrong with Modern Horror. He's a YouTube film critic who posted this video basically talking about, and used The Babadook as an example, the difference between old school horror, which tended to be more psychological and visceral, versus modern horror, which tends to be more like, scary, ooh, blood.
Well, we had a conversation about it. It's about what they show as opposed to what they know.
Well, not only that, but like Stuckman goes really into this very great conversation about they had Grindhouse back in the day, but even that had a different feeling because of the way they paced it and how they did it and all these things. But anyway, if you like horror, if you're interested in The Babadook, check out Chris Stuckman's What's Wrong with Modern
Just
Horror.
have Halloween right now.
Right now. That's it's never too late.
So, Joe, what are you actually pitching?
I'm going to pitch Nightlights and also Trillium by Jeff Lemire, because I had actual Nightlights, not a book.
No, it took me a minute.
So I was sitting at home eating, because I have to eat quickly on Wednesdays because I get home from work, I change, I eat, and I come to the studio. Usually by... I just killed Brant.
He is. I imagine picturing in his head you eating and then becoming so messy that you have to strip all of your clothes off and put on new clothes.
None of that has anything to do with it. Kayleigh was purely the reason that I almost lost my shit.
So,
thanks a lot, Kayleigh.
I missed it.
Normally, while I'm doing all three of these things, I'm reading the book for this evening. So
planning, Joe. Plan ahead.
Yeah,
Pack an extra lunch.
To read the book.
Bring a change of clothes. Read the book ahead of time. You won't feel so
all
rushed.
Of those things are ridiculous
Eating when
ideas.
you're in a rush is bad for you.
No, I mean, it's not that big of a rush, but I'm not leisurely. I can't be leisurely. Anyways, I only have one speed of eating food.
This
all right.
has become like the weirdest recommendation section we've ever
So
done.
I was sitting in the chair. I was sitting in my chair, and Kirby comes in with Benson because she had been walking him around the lake, and
Dude,
she goes, "What do you have to pitch?" And I said, "I got nothing." And so she goes, "Pitch Trillium." So Trillium is an interdimensional time traveling love story.
Brant's gonna rip his eyes out because Joe,
Don't
that story
care,
was
because all of you
pointless.
motherfuckers have taken equally as long to get to the fucking
No,
pitch before.
we have not.
Yes, you
Never,
have.
it's not
I
true.
I will compile proof.
Described my
Okay.
entire evening just to say
Kirby told me to bring the book.
somebody else told me to pitch a book.
So I haven't read it. I told Kirby I would pitch it because
It's very good.
So Jeff Lemire is doing the writing and the penciling.
Don't get mad at Joe because it takes him a little longer.
Yeah.
He is special.
Let me tell you something. If any of you fuckers
God.
had had my week, you would not even fucking be
No,
here.
we had an equally different and very challenging week.
Yeah.
I'm gonna fucking challenge you by dropping an elephant
Do
on
it.
you.
You don't own an elephant. I know.
Oh,
that.
I do. I just got one
Trillium's
today.
really good. The
It
arts are
is.
pretty.
So,
The story's a good romance.
Trillium is a story about two people separated by the gulf of time that
Maybe.
are connected through. Well, maybe, yeah, I guess, maybe. No, it's fucking obvious that they are.
There's a lot. I feel like there's.
they're-
It's open to interpretation.
Okay, well,
Oh my God.
ostensibly,
I'm not voting for this book.
ostensibly separated by a large length of time.
So
And
spoilers.
connected by this flower called Trillium.
All right.
And it's visually very cool, and there's, I think it kind of plays with the genre from what I understand. But yeah, Trillium. Okay.
Brant, what do you got?
Ed Brubaker and Steve Epting's Velvet.
Ooh.
Which is basically,
pitched that, too.
imagine that James Bond got killed, and everybody thinks that Miss Moneypenny did it, and it turns out that she's actually better than James Bond, and she's
Yeah.
trying to figure out what actually happened.
Yeah,
Nice.
it's really
And
good.
We have a Patreon listener pitch
Yes.
this week, which Chard is going to do for us.
Oh yeah. So this is from Tony, right?
Yes, Tony Cortero.
Tony Cortero. I'm getting to it on the computer really quick. Oh yeah. So he probably heard me talk about this on Top of the Stack as well, but I was really excited about this when the first issue came out because this was a time travel story that was done in a really interesting way, and I was all about it. Basically, Geneva, Switzerland, Large Hadron Collider, as all good time travel stories, it begins there. And this guy shows up and is like, hey, I know you're about to walk into that room and turn on this Hadron Collider, but don't, because you're going to end the world. And she's like, how the fuck did you get in here and get past security? He's like, don't worry about it. We're about to go on a time travel adventure to stop this evil person from destroying the universe. And she's like, I don't know that that's a good... And then they go on an adventure. And it's really good.
And it's called
Ivar Timewalker.
Yes.
Yeah.
Which you didn't say.
I didn't say that. But I did now, and
called
it's good.
Dun Dun Dun.
So this is Ivar Timewalker from
Yeah.
Valiant Comics.
Yes.
Because we haven't done a Valiant comic
No.
ever.
Ever?
I've
Ever.
pitched several of them, but
Yeah.
We haven't picked
No,
them.
this one's a really good one. And some of the Valiant titles are tied in together. This one is tangentially tied in. Like, you see Rye in, like, a background panel. Like, it's in the Valiant universe, but it is its own story within that universe. So,
Cool.
if you have not read Valiant Comics, you will not be lost.
Nice. Kayleigh, what would you like to vote for?
This one's actually difficult.
Oh, there's a big twist in Ivar, but I don't want to give it away. So
Well-
there's also just, like...
But you gave away that there's
He-
a twist. Now
he-
I'll be expecting the twist. Now I can't vote.
It's at the end of the first issue. I just like don't want to like set.
I don't
you up.
the
remember there
twist
being a
is that
twist.
he moves to Seattle.
we'll talk after
and
this.
becomes the founder of a chain of seafood
I
restaurants.
read
Same.
issue 1 and nothing else.
Yeah, it's at the
Okay.
very end of the first issue. I feel like maybe it's in issue 2. Anyway,
Maybe. So what are you picking, Kayleigh?
I am going to go for Ivar Timewalker.
yeah, I don't know if I'm saying that right, but it's IVAR. I
Yeah,
feel
it's-
like that's
I think it's Ivar.
Yeah.
Like Ivan.
Yeah,
I'm going to vote for Velvet.
yeah, it's super good.
Chard?
Ooh, this is tough because I love Velvet and I also like Ivar. And I like the Doctor Strange the Oath book too. It's super good. And Trillium was really nice. I'm gonna go with Velvet also.
What did you bring, Kayleigh?
iZombie.
I'm going to vote for iZombie because...
Because you want to talk about the TV show some more.
No. I've seen one episode of the TV show, but Kirby would want me to vote for iZombie.
Brant?
I can force a tie.
You could. You can make Joe pick. Right? Is that what would happen?
We would have the same situation that we had last time.
No, because Joe didn't vote for either.
No, he voted for iZombie.
If I vote for iZombie, then
it's a three-way
It's two
tie.
for iZombie and 2 for Velvet.
It would make Kayleigh repick, basically.
Oh, that's where... Okay.
And she brought iZombie, which is the problem that we had last time.
But if you vote for Ivar Timewalker, then Joe gets to pick. Because it would also be a two-way tie.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
All right, I'll vote for Ivar Timewalker.
All right,
Okay.
Joe, Velvet, or Ivar?
Spies or time travel?
I guess
They're
I should
both
go with
really-
the time travel because I brought a book about time travel and I would seem somewhat hypocritical if I didn't.
No, you wouldn't.
That.
That's not how that
weird
works.
thing, but
Well,
sure.
I was going to say that I don't really...
That's not how any
Both
of this
of
works.
those sound interesting to me, but not tonight. They're like something
Well, what's going to sound interesting to you next week?
actually, I'll vote for Velvet because it's been brought before, and we'll just get it out of the way. So I'm sorry, Tony.
You would love Ivar.
I'm sure I
do
would.
like Velvet.
I'm sure I would. We'll bring it
Valiant.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll definitely.
Yeah,
get
there's a
back to
couple
it.
Valiant books that are on my list of to pitch once the 52 weeks of Image are over. I have been enjoying Valiant. I know we need to talk about some.
Bloodshot Revolt.
I really want to do...
It's really good. I didn't start reading it.
We're not
going to
I'm
talk
reading
about-
it.
Bloodshot, Youngblood, Bloodsport, or whatever the fuck. Blood.
I want a blood.
We are
war,
not.
man.
We're not talking about
Dude.
blood. We are instead going to talk about Rye by Matt Kent because it's fucking sweet.
Yes.
But anyway, next week we will be talking about Velvet by Ed Brubaker and with the phenomenal art of Steve Epting, which is the flashback sequences in Captain America Winter Soldier, I believe, were done by that team.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I believe so.
So, sweet.
All right. Thanks for listening, everybody.
Yeah.
Okay, bye.
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 Thank you for listening to Me From the Gutters. I hope our recommendations have inspired you to go out and find some new comics you'll enjoy. Join us next time for a discussion of our selected title, but like every week, we encourage you to read all of the recommended books. In the meantime, please leave us an iTunes review. It really does help new listeners find the show. You can also like us on Facebook, subscribe to our YouTube, and follow us on Twitter at ViewFRTHGutters. Feel free to email us at contact@viewfromthegutters.com. Please send us any questions, comments, or recommendations you might have. Be sure to subscribe to our YouTube channel as we post new videos every week. And thanks again for listening. And as always, keep reading.